If you place your hand on your stomach right now and feel something firm pushing outward, that is not regular body fat. That is an entirely different biological substance. Visceral fat does not sit on top of your muscles like the soft tissue on your thighs or your arms. It buries itself deep inside the abdominal cavity. It coils around your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, and your intestines. And unlike regular fat, it does not just sit there quietly. It behaves like a rogue endocrine organ, pumping out inflammatory chemicals and hormones that actively sabotage your metabolism every single hour. Now, here is what most people get wrong. They assume the answer is to eat less. They slash their calories. They skip breakfast. They grind through cardio sessions 6 days a week. But here is the biological reality. If your body is stuck in a state of chronic stress and internal inflammation, restricting food actually makes visceral fat grip tighter. Your system interprets the calorie deficit as a threat, and it prioritizes storing energy right around the organs as a survival mechanism. So the real solution is the opposite of what you have been told. You do not shrink this tissue by removing food. You shrink it by introducing very specific compounds that reprogram the hormonal signals driving the storage in the first place. There are 5 foods that function less like nutrition and more like biochemical instructions. They contain molecules that directly target cortisol, liver congestion, insulin resistance, and chronic inflammation. These are the 4 pillars holding visceral fat in place. Over the next few minutes, we are going to dismantle each one. We will break down the hormone that literally commands fat cells to open up and release their contents. We will explore the fiber that physically blocks sugar from flooding your bloodstream. And pay close attention to food number 5, because it triggers a satiety hormone that mimics what happens in a prolonged fast, all without you missing a single meal. This is not about willpower or motivation. This is metabolic engineering. Let us start with the root cause. Food number 1, the anti-inflammatory reset. Here is the core problem. Visceral fat is not just stored energy, it is inflamed tissue. It constantly leaks molecules called cytokines, particularly one called interleukin-6, into your bloodstream. These cytokines make your cells deaf to insulin. And when your cells stop listening to insulin, glucose stays elevated in the blood, and your pancreas responds by flooding your system with even more insulin. That excess insulin drives fat storage directly into the belly. It is a vicious feedback loop. Inflammation causes insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes more belly fat. More belly fat causes more inflammation. To break this cycle, you need a specific class of fatty acids, known as EPA and DHA. These are omega-3 compounds found in their highest concentrations in fatty cold water fish: salmon, sardines, mackerel, and anchovies. But we are not eating fish just for the omega-3s themselves. We are eating it because of what those omega-3s do to a hormone called adiponectin. Adiponectin is sometimes referred to as the lean body hormone. People who carry very little visceral fat tend to have high circulating levels of adiponectin. People with significant belly fat almost always show depleted levels. Research has demonstrated that consistent omega-3 intake directly elevates adiponectin production. When adiponectin levels climb, it signals your muscles and liver to preferentially burn fatty acids instead of glucose as their primary fuel source. The protocol here is straightforward. 1 serving of fatty fish at minimum, 3 to 4 times per week. Ideally, a smaller portion daily. And one crucial note, you cannot simply pop a fish oil capsule while the rest of your diet is loaded with inflammatory vegetable oils and expect this to work. The whole food matrix matters. The intact fish changes the actual composition of your cell membranes, making them more fluid and more responsive to insulin signaling. But even if you successfully lower inflammation, there is still a bottleneck: your liver. And that brings us to the second food. Food number 2, the liver detox agent. Every molecule of visceral fat that your body wants to burn has to be processed through the liver first. The liver is the metabolic clearinghouse. If it is overloaded, backed up, or infiltrated with its own fat deposits, a condition called hepatic steatosis, then the exit route for visceral fat is effectively sealed shut. You can lower inflammation all you want, but the fat has nowhere to go. The compound that clears this bottleneck is called sulforaphane, And the richest sources on Earth are cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli sprouts are the most potent, followed by kale, arugula, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower. Sulforaphane activates a genetic pathway called NRF2. Think of NRF2 as the master control switch for your body's internal detoxification machinery. When NRF2 turns on, the liver dramatically increases production of phase 2 detoxification enzymes. These enzymes strip fat buildup and toxic byproducts from liver cells and package them for elimination. Beyond NRF2, cruciferous vegetables also contain a compound called DIM, or diindolylmethane. DIM assists the liver in metabolizing excess estrogen. This matters for visceral fat because certain estrogen metabolites are directly linked to increased fat deposition around the abdomen and hips. When the liver efficiently clears these hormones, you remove one of the hidden hormonal triggers for midsection weight gain. Now, we have addressed inflammation and we have opened the liver, but there is a third system that can override both of those improvements: your stress response. Food number 3, the cortisol circuit breaker. If there is one hormone most responsible for that hard, round belly, it is cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone released by your adrenal glands. When cortisol stays chronically elevated, it dumps glucose into your bloodstream. Insulin then rushes in to deal with that glucose, and it packs the excess energy straight into the visceral fat compartment. This is why people under constant stress gain belly fat, even when they are not overeating. The mineral that serves as the natural off switch for this entire cascade is magnesium. And one of the most concentrated food sources of magnesium available is pumpkin seeds, also called pepitas. Magnesium works by binding directly to GABA receptors in your brain. GABA is your primary calming neurotransmitter. It is the chemical that tells your nervous system to stand down. When you are deficient in magnesium, and roughly half of the adult population is, your brain stays locked in a low-grade state of hypervigilance. Cortisol trickles out around the clock, sleep quality drops, and the belly fat accumulates. A quarter cup of pumpkin seeds daily provides a substantial dose of magnesium to begin restoring this balance. Now, I want to pause here and actually hear from you, because this connects to something interesting. When you are exhausted or under pressure, what does your body crave? Do you reach for something salty, like chips or pretzels? Or do you go straight for something sweet, like candy or chocolate? Drop your answer in the comments. Team salty or team sweet? If you are team salty, that often points toward adrenal exhaustion and mineral depletion. Pumpkin seeds are essentially your prescription. If you are team sweet, that typically signals a blood sugar or dopamine regulation issue, which leads perfectly into the next food. Food number 4, the glucose sponge. You can lower cortisol, clean the liver, and reduce inflammation, but if every meal you eat sends a tidal wave of sugar into your blood, insulin will keep slamming the door shut on fat burning. We need something that physically slows down the rate at which glucose enters your system. The food is chia seeds. Ground flax seeds work as well. These tiny seeds contain an extraordinarily dense concentration of viscous, soluble fiber. When chia seeds contact water in your stomach, they absorb it and expand into a thick gel. This gel coats the walls of your small intestine and creates a literal physical barrier. When you consume carbohydrates alongside this gel matrix, the glucose molecules cannot rush through the intestinal wall and spike your blood sugar. They have to slowly diffuse through the barrier. The result is a dramatically flattened glucose curve and a much lower insulin demand. But the real magic happens further downstream. When this soluble fiber reaches your large intestine, your gut bacteria ferment it and produce short-chain fatty acids, most importantly, one called butyrate. Butyrate is not just fuel for your colon cells, it is a signaling molecule. It communicates directly with the brain to increase feelings of fullness. It travels to the liver and enhances insulin sensitivity. It even tells your mitochondria to ramp up their efficiency. The daily protocol is simple: 2 tablespoons of chia seeds or ground flax mixed into water, a smoothie, or yogurt. Think of it as a metabolic insurance policy you take once a day. Now, we have tackled 4 out of 5 pillars: inflammation handled, liver opened, cortisol dampened, blood sugar stabilized. There is one final piece that ties it all together. Food number 5, the cellular repair tool. This one might surprise you because it is not exotic or obscure. It is avocado. But before you dismiss it as just another source of healthy fat, understand what avocado actually does at the cellular level. The primary mechanism is potassium. We discussed magnesium for stress, but potassium is the mineral that governs insulin sensitivity inside each individual cell. Most adults are severely deficient in potassium because they simply do not eat enough plant matter. A single avocado contains more potassium than a banana, and it delivers it without any of the sugar. When potassium levels are low, your cells struggle to absorb glucose from the bloodstream efficiently. The pancreas compensates by producing more and more insulin. And elevated insulin is the single most powerful signal telling your body to store visceral fat. Half an avocado per day floods your cells with the potassium they need, which directly reduces how much insulin your pancreas has to secrete. But there is a second mechanism that makes avocado uniquely powerful. Avocados are rich in oleic acid, a monounsaturated fatty acid. When oleic acid reaches the small intestine, it triggers the release of a compound called oleoethanolamide, or OEA. OEA sends a direct, hardwired signal from your gut to your brain, telling it that you are satisfied and that it is time to start burning stored fat for energy. This is the exact same metabolic switch your body flips during a 16-hour fast, except you activated it by eating, not by starving. That is what makes this food so remarkable. You are simultaneously repairing the insulin machinery inside your cells while triggering a fasting mimicking satiety signal in your brain. Now, here is where the real power emerges. You do not eat these 5 foods in isolation. You stack them. Picture a single meal, a piece of wild salmon sitting on a generous bed of arugula and broccoli sprouts. Scattered across the top, a handful of pumpkin seeds, dressed with a chia seed vinaigrette, and on the side, half a ripe avocado. That is not just lunch. That is a targeted metabolic intervention on a plate. Every ingredient is sending a specific chemical instruction to a different system in your body. The salmon is raising adiponectin and dousing inflammation. The greens are activating your liver's detox pathways. The pumpkin seeds are quieting your adrenal glands. The chia seeds are building a glucose barrier in your gut. And the avocado is restoring cellular insulin sensitivity while telling your brain you are full. Visceral fat is not a personal failing. It is not a lack of discipline. It is the predictable biological outcome of a body that is inflamed, hormonally stressed, and resistant to its own insulin. You cannot outrun that biology on a treadmill. You cannot white-knuckle it away with a crash diet. But you can dismantle it layer by layer with the right molecular inputs. Fatty fish for adiponectin, cruciferous vegetables for liver function, pumpkin seeds for cortisol regulation, chia and flax for blood sugar control, avocado for potassium and satiety signaling. Stop thinking about food as calories in versus calories out. Start thinking about food as data. Every meal you eat is either telling your body to hold on to that visceral fat or giving it permission to let go. Choose the right signals, and the fat has no biological reason to stay. If this changed the way you think about belly fat, subscribe to this channel. We break down the real science behind how your body works so you can stop guessing and start engineering your health. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.